Welcome to Joe Sterling Gymnasium. For those of you watching the YouTube broadcast, we want to apologize for the glitch that we had going live. We thought we were live, and it turned out that we were not. And so thank you for a couple of you sent text messages and got the message to some folks in the arena who could let us know to check on that. It was one of those situations where the control panel made it look like we were live, and it turned out we really weren't. Here's the good news. We were live on Varsity Sports Network the entire time because we're simulcasting this game on both YouTube and Varsity Sports Network. So Varsity Sports Network has the footage. We can get that archival footage from them, and we can post that on our YouTube feed. You have missed, if you have been waiting for it to pop up on YouTube, you have missed a barn burner from Olympia, 49-16, in a huge surprise. Bartow has just been stunned, the defending 6A state champions. We knew Olympia was good. We didn't know they were this good. And they opened up with 70% shooting from three-point range. That has eventually fallen to 58%, which is still quite impressive. They're at 69% field goal shooting overall here at halftime. And so it has been just a firestorm for Olympia. And Bartow's really struggling to find an answer. They sat with just 3 points on the scoreboard, 6 points on the scoreboard until the second quarter. And now they have just barely avoided the running clock going into the third period. Now, if Olympia increases the scoring margin by even just 2 points, it'll go to a running clock for the rest of the game. But Bartow at least managed to avoid that coming out of the gate for the third period, thanks to some shooting at the very end by Edward Wiggins. So, that being said, looking at your first half scoring leaders for Bartow. Timothy Graydon has 2 points. Baker with 3. Jaden Wynn with 5. Edward Wiggins with 6. On the Olympia side, Alexis with 1. Claudner Pierre with 2. Kevin Charles also has 2. Cameron James with 2. Chance Harris with 3. Dylan Lightus with 5. And then 2 in double figures. Josh Mio has 10. And E.J. James has 18 to lead his team in the first half. So again, thanks for your patience to those of you who are watching on YouTube. We apologize for the glitch getting online there. We will try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But in the meantime, like I said, we do have that footage. It was posted to Varsity Sports Network. And so we'll make sure that we get a copy of that from them and get that posted for archival purposes. And we'll be bringing you the second half here in about 90 seconds. For those of you who are stakeholders in Apopka's other sports ventures, we have an update from the playoff game. Apopka leads Seminole 21-14 at halftime in the regional playoffs. Regional championship game specifically. As we get back to live action here in Game 15 of the 11th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. The Titans will have the opening possession of the second half.
Yeah, and as we begin the second half, that was Mark Barchi. I'm Neil Fisher. There's no way to sugarcoat this. There's no way to make this sound nice. a 49-16 lead. We are on the verge of a running clock. That's Olympia Titans with a 49 and Bartow with the 16. Bartow representing the Florida contingency and the two-time defending state Class 6A champion. Olympia looking to continue to improve. They were 6-21 in Rob Gordon's first year. That was 3 years ago. Last season, they were 21-7 and not only earned a playoff berth but made it to the round of 16. And, Mark, I know I keep saying this over. It's the proverbial dead horse. But 49-16, there is no way to sugarcoat that. This has been a blitzkrieg performance by Olympia, no matter how you slice and dice this. So Bartow with an opportunity to at least get some cushion and avoiding the running clock. 35 points. The clock does run the rest of the way. There is no stoppages except for timeouts in between the quarters. Now Bartow did lose almost all their players from those back-to-back state champions, as they still cannot get the ball to drop in. And, again, I was not in the locker room, but I would have to assume that I am not thinking any different than anybody else, any of you folks out there who's watching this, when I say that halftime Coach McGriff had nothing to say about strategy or tactics. As we drain the rain from James.
Three-point basket to E.J. James to open up second half scoring.
And now we are in a running clock. Unfortunately, Bartow could not avoid that. But Coach McGriff, I don't think he had anything to say about strategy or tactics. It was simply about the fact of having some pride and putting some effort into the work. And again, I don't think you have to be a basketball guru. I think that's pretty much what everyone else would assume, all of you out there listening. 6:40 remaining. Well, it was supposed to be a marquee game. It was supposed to be a game that had the same back and forth, punch for counter punch we saw last night with Dr. Phillips and Lake Highland, but it's been all Olympia.
James on the pass to Laster for three.
And that lead continues to increase, 39 now. James has led the way, the number 19 ranked Florida Hoops class of 2023 prospect. He has 20 points. However, he is not alone. This has been a total team effort.
Foul called against number 5. Josh Mio, his second, the team's first this half.
8 other players have gone into the scoring column. Olympia shot over 70% from the three-point range.
Yeah, that eventually fell to 6. Well, now it's at 64. I think it was at 58 at halftime. Still, doesn't matter. I mean, when you're shooting above 50% from three-point, it's a good day.
And like I mentioned, even though it's not 70, 64 is still a number I have never seen in 30-plus years of covering high school basketball from three-point range. And,
yeah, Claude Pierre there, he didn't pay enough for long distance on that call.
As we approach 5 minutes remaining. Of course, this is the Metro versus Florida Challenge. And forever now honoring Earl Graham, the assistant coach who unfortunately passed away from COVID on January 8th. The longtime coach in Olympia. They will not get the run and gun this time, as a foul brings the action to a stop.
Foul called against number 33, Edward Wiggins. That's his third personal foul, the team's second of this half. So Laster gets credited with the steal.
Yeah, every school, every public high school in Orange County, which covers most of the city of Orlando, is a member of the Metro Conference. If you are a school, if you come into existence, and we have 2 new ones this year, you are automatically a member of the conference. And one of those members takes on a non-member in each and every one of these 24 games. We will have 9 left after this game. And at the end of the 24 games, we will add up which side wins the most. Obviously, the Metro Conference, Olympia representing it, will win this game, and that will cut the Florida contingency lead to 10-5.
Foul called against number 3, Jordy Lowry, his first.
4 minutes remaining in the third quarter. The block But the turnover and another whistle as we drop under 4 minutes.
Foul called again against Jordy Lowry. That's now his second personal foul, the team's fourth.
Inbound to Kevin's Charles. Back to Charles. Excuse me, that's actually Mio, one of the starters, who pops and drops from the free throw line.
Josh Mio adds a jumper for the Titans.
So Mio now up to 12 points. He has slowed down in that scoring somewhat, but he was part of that barrage which began this game, scoring 7 points along with Jizzy James. The duo was lightning and fire and ice, lightning and thunder, and they gave Olympia that early lead. They came out within a couple minutes, had the lead over 15, and the rest of the team has just continued to build on that lead. It is a 41-point lead against the defending Class 6A state champions, and Coach McGriff is going to have a lot of work to do, although I think this is as much an eye-opener for the newcomers, Bartow, as Olympia tries for the alley-oop. They will draw the foul.
Xavier Laster fouled on the attempt. He'll go to the line and shoot 2 for the Titans. Foul called against Jackets, number 33, Edward Wiggins. That's his 4th personal foul, and the team's 5th.
Bartow with a number of players who do not return from the 2-time state champions. And certainly, if there is any coach out there who can take this, what's been a total blitzkrieg performance, and turn it into a positive, as Rob Gordon makes wholesale changes to the Olympia team, it would be Sean Campbell. He is a 3-time state champion, 2010, 2020, and 2021, a 4-time state finalist. The other appearance in the state final was 2014. So a minute and a half before the end of the third quarter. Bartow rises and gets the bank.
Jordy Lowry for 3 on the pass from DeCarlos Brown.
That'll cut the lead down to 40 as we approach 1 minute remaining in the third quarter. Clinks off the rim, doing Windex work is Jizzy James.
E.J. James on the putback.
22 now for James.
And we've got a pile up.
Under a minute in the third quarter. And some more bad breaks against Bartow. They get called for the foul. Clock
DeCarlos Brown is called on the offensive charge, taken by Cameron James. It's Brown's 2nd personal foul, the team's 6th.
Clock continues to run, 30 seconds remaining. Olympia with possession. Loses the ball, picked up by Graydon, who goes withdrawal and cuts the lead back down to 40. 15 seconds, Olympia with the shot. Last opportunity if they so choose. And yes, they do choose. The slash and dash, the withdrawal from Laster.
Xavier Laster on the layup.
Back the other way. Bartow's got to get rid of the ball.
That takes us to the end of the third period.
A 63-21 lead from Olympia. They have led from start to finish, and as the score indicates, complete domination.
The 11th annual Metro vs. Florida Challenge is proudly supported by Williams Construction and Development, dedicated professional, superior craftsmanship, and better building materials. The 11th annual Metro vs. Florida Challenge is also presented in partnership with Varsity Sports Network. All your favorite sports, all year long, all in one place. Visit varsitysportsnetwork.org for live 24/7 coverage of high school sports around the state. The Jackets have the opening possession of the fourth quarter. And we're going to start out with not a great move from Bartow with the turnover out of bounds or backcourt violation or both. And so they will squander their opening possession.
Held by Olympia, a 63-21 lead held by Olympia. Representing the Metro Conference with possession. It's been a blitzkrieg performance. Highlighted by Jizzy James, 22. And Drain the Rain continues. Harris.
Chance Harris for three. A pass from Verdi.
And this is a running clock. 35 points or more in the second half brings out the running clock. As the action continues, at least if you're an Olympia fan, that's your take.
Foul called against number 32. Timothy Graydon, his second. The team's seventh, at the line shooting will be number 31, Cameron James.
This is the 2021 Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge, live from Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium on the campus of Apopka High School. Apopka's the host school because Scott Williams, who's their coach, this was his brainchild. He came up with it 12 seasons ago. This is the 11th edition. Of course, last year there was no event due to the pandemic. He started it while coaching at Wekiva when he moved up to Apopka, 5 miles up the road, brought the event with him. And unfortunately, this has not materialized as promised into a back and forth contest between a state heavyweight, the two-time state defending champion Bartow, and the up-and-coming looking to get into the state semifinal team of the Olympia Titans.
Foul called against number 20, Nathaniel Smathers. That's his first personal foul. The team's eighth at the line shooting will be Sean Owens.
And this is now called the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. If you did not know who Coach Graham was, well, first, he was a coach. He coached for almost 50 years. I don't believe he was ever a head coach, but he was about as valuable an assistant coach as possible. He was that coach who you never saw on the bench during the games. He never really got a lot of face time, but no team wins consistently without his work. He was the coach who would work with the players at 6 or 6:30 in the morning, a couple hours before the start of classes. He would show up before the crack of dawn to work with his players. And he had a way about him. He was a taskmaster. He could be a very difficult coach to please. He was very difficult because he demanded quality, he demanded perfection, but yet at the same time, he endured a all-consuming, will do anything for you coach attitude in his players that he coached with. However, as the lead is now cut
Lawrence Horton steals a layup for the Jackets.
As the lead is cut to 70-29, he was an even better man in terms of being a mentor and working with youth in order to build the skills they need to have a successful life. And the coach unfortunately passed away on January 8th due to the pandemic, and he will be missed very terribly by not only the basketball community, but like I said, those of us who got to know him just outside of the coaching ranks, outside the basketball community. He was somebody who just, if you didn't like Coach Graham, if you didn't enjoy his companionship, if you didn't enjoy just having some time to spend with him and talking to him, you pretty much can't get along with anybody.
Yeah, it certainly is not quite the same this year without Coach Graham guarding the hospitality room with all of the lunch items for the staff of the Metro versus Florida Challenge. Of course, having Earl guard the hospitality room was like having a fox guard the hen house, but we loved him for it anyway. Fouls called against number 20. Nathaniel Smathers on the block, his second personal foul, the team's 9th. The line shooting Cameron James.
So let's also give some kudos to Coach Gordon. I know we've talked about it throughout the game as the lead is now up to 71-23, under 3 minutes, a running clock. He certainly had his team ready tonight. This was a combination of Olympia being as ready as possible and Bartow coming out being as flat as possible. And I think you probably somewhere in between as Coach Gordon calls a timeout.
Putback made by Cameron James. We'll pause for a 30-second timeout called by Coach Gordon.
Coach, Olympia, a good team, a team, like we said, that made it to the round of 16 last year, looking to take that next step under Coach Gordon. They're probably not nearly as good as they have shown tonight, connecting on 70% from three-point range, over 55% from the floor in total. And Bartow certainly nowhere as bad as they've shown tonight. Again, I apologize for using the word bad, but I really can't come up with any better description. Shooting under 30% from the beginning, a 10-point lead within a minute, 20 points within 2.5 minutes, and it has just grown from there into this running clock.
Don't go anywhere after the conclusion of this game. We got one more for you, and it is Timber Creek versus Buchholz. Buchholz making their first ever appearance at the Metro versus Florida Challenge. That's going to come up at 9 o'clock to wrap up day 2.
So 2.5 minutes remaining as Mark cuts off the Bon Jovi. And Bartow tried to get over that 30-point mark. And
not there, they won't.
Yeah, that might be their last opportunity. They just might not have enough time left. 2:13, 2:12, turnover for Olympia. How many turnovers is that, Mark? I'm sure they have under 10.
Olympia has 12, actually, 12 turnovers.
So they are over 10, but still.
If you're worried about it, though, Bartow has 20.
If you're Coach Gordon, I think you still have to be happy with that stat. All in all, I don't think Coach Gordon can have much to complain about. If this game, of course, always the coach. Coaches are never satisfied because they're not thinking about the current game. They're thinking about the next series of games. And, of course, this is the first game, so you're thinking about the season. The season can be rough. It can be long. It can be rough and tumble. And there's a lot to overcome, even if you are a school like Olympia that's coming off a 21-7 and regional semifinal appearance. I think his biggest, Coach Gordon's biggest, I don't want to say complaint, but concern perhaps is a better word, is that maybe his team gets a little too high after really this dominating and just blitzkrieg of a performance against the defending Class 6A champion. Score of the deuce.
Putback made by Williams.
And we'll come the other way. 50 seconds remaining. From the corner, Olympia. The drive, the rebound after the block, and picked up again. And the exclamation point.
Cameron James with a second chance slam dunk. And Olympia has come off just unglued. Lewis to James for another basket.
10 seconds remaining. We come the other way.
Jason Williams lobs one in.
And certainly the exclamation point, the two baskets from Cameron James. There's the final buzzer, and we have said everything that needs to be said. If you're Coach Gordon, your only complaint is probably now you have to make sure your team is not too high and they don't think that they're quite as good as they showed tonight. You have to bring them back down to earth. 76-27, Olympia defeats Bartow, and the lead is now 10-5 for the contingency over the Metro Florida Metro Conference.
That takes us to the end of the ball games. And the Titans take a big win in this penultimate game of day 2. Again, we got more coming your way, but first we have a little hardware to hand out. We have the Earl Graham Most Valuable Player Award being presented on behalf of his family at each game in the 11th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. And it comes as no great surprise that in this game it has to go to the man with 23 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks, none other than Edgerrin E.J. Jizzle James. Once again, don't go anywhere. We still have one more game to go here to wrap up day 2. Coming up next, Timber Creek takes on Buchholz in game 16 of the 11th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. For those of you watching on Varsity Sports Network, don't go anywhere. Just stay right where you are. We're going to run some ads for a few minutes, and then we will be back to get that game started. It is scheduled for a 9 o'clock start, so we're actually just a couple minutes ahead of schedule here. So come back and see us a few minutes before 9 o'clock. Those of you watching on YouTube, we promise, we pinky swear, we will make sure the broadcast actually starts this time, and we will get that up for you again just before 9 o'clock.